Cabbages and condoms in Thailand. How many of you have ever been to Cabbages and Condoms? Okay, when you're done with today's conference, get a flight to Bangkok and go immediately. This will blow your minds. You go into the founding restaurant of Cabbages and Condoms, and on each table there are neat rows of multicolored condoms. And on the wall there are blow-up animals made out of condoms. At the end of dinner you get condom mints. This is the guy who is the founder of Cabbages and Condoms named Mahai. Now in Thailand, his name has really become synonymous with the condom. So when you go to a drugstore, you don't say, I want a condom, you say, I want a Mackay. The amazing thing is, though, is that these restaurants, there's 12 restaurants and resorts in all, generate $2 million a year that get contributed into the largest AIDS education and reproductive rights campaign in Thailand. Local food businesses give you the ability to be as radical as you want to be. Now, the last part that I want to talk about is how we can accelerate this revolution. Because the revolution is happening, but we ought to be pushing it along to go faster. And I want to give 6 quick ideas of things that should be done, things that NOFA should be working on, things that you should be working on in all of the organizations that you are part of. The first is we got to analyze leakages in our economy. That is, what are all the places where we are unnecessarily importing outside food into our economy? Because these are the opportunities for creating new local import replacing businesses. The study that I just did for Bioneers found that there was one crop more than anything else that New Mexico needed to become more localized, and that is grocery stores. It needs more local grocery stores because the food distribution system there is so awful. Doing a leakage analysis will give you surprising information about where you should be putting your priorities. Entrepreneurship. Let's learn more about innovations like this high school in Paraguay. Let's learn more about food kitchens and incubators, especially those that pay for themselves as they generate a new generation of businesses. Business alliances are pretty important. As was mentioned, I work for the Business Alliance for Local Living Economies. We're a national group. We have 80 networks in the United States. Some are here in Connecticut. One of the things that our business alliances do is we try to forge good working relationships among local small businesses so that they become more competitive. An example of what I mean is Tucson Originals. Tucson Originals is a bunch of local food businesses in Arizona that collectively buy foodstuffs together and thereby bring down the price. They buy kitchen equipment together and dishes together. They do joint marketing. They do a joint gift card and debit card. So these are all things that your organization can think about moving into. Local investment. This, to me, is the holy grail of the green economy. So by show of hands here, how many people bank at a local bank or credit union? All right. Clearly, it's an unusual crowd. Now, those of you with pension funds, how many of you have them invested in local business primarily? Okay, this is weird. Half of our economy is local small business. And none of our pension money is going into them. These businesses, by the way, are at least as profitable as the big alternatives. Because if you look in statistical abstract, you find that sole proprietorships are actually 3 times more profitable than C corporations, with partnerships sort of falling in between. What this means is that all of us are systematically over-investing in the Fortune 500 companies we distrust, and under-investing, that is, not investing at all, in the local businesses, the local food businesses we know are essential for our future. We've got to fix this problem. This problem comes from the fact that we have securities laws that were enacted in the early Jurassic period. And they make it extremely expensive for small investors and small businesses to find one another. Now, I've got a lot of ways that we can fix this. And if you want to come to the workshop that I'm doing right after lunch, we're going to talk more about that, along with some other state law reforms in the food area. What I did want to share with you right now, though, is an inkling of how we fix the problem. This photo here comes from the Mercantile in Powell, Wyoming. Powell, Wyoming is a small mountainous community. This was a place that basically they had no place to buy their socks and their underwear. They tried to invite some outside chain stores to come in. They were too small. So they said, okay, we're going to build our own general store. We need $500,000 to do it. Where are we going to get $500,000? So they created their own small local stock issue. You had to be a resident of Wyoming to buy the stock shares. They sold the stock like Girl Scout cookies, door to door. Got the thing financed. This thing was profitable from year one. And now busloads of tourists come into Powell, Wyoming to see the Powell miracle around the Merc. There are dozen of these great success stories in the Rocky Mountain states around local stocks. So let's come back to Connecticut. What about picking 50 small businesses in the next 5 years? Great small local food businesses that we create local stock issues around. And then let's create a local stock exchange, a virtual stock exchange that allows us to buy and sell these securities, have some liquidity in the market. And then we can create diversified stock portfolios. This is going to happen. It's going to happen. And when that happens, not millions, not billions, but trillions of dollars will pour into the local food economy. So get ready for it. I'll come back to that slide in my workshop. Number 5, local purchasing. A lot of what Bali networks do, amoeba networks, all kinds of other local networks like transition towns or those associated with the Post-Carbon Institute, we're all about buying local. People buying local, businesses buying local, government procurement agents buying local. Some of us use labels like think local first. Now a term that's coming into vogue is the 10% shift. The idea that if we shift just 10% of our purchases to local can have a huge economic impact. We need to continue and deepen these campaigns. And I think there are a host of for-profit businesses that we can develop around these. Local debit cards, local credit cards, local gift cards, local business-to-business Yenta agencies, local agencies that help farmers and small businesses compete effectively on government contracts. I mean, the list is a very long one of what we could be doing. The final thing we need to do is we need to reinvent economic development. And this graph here comes from another report that I'm just finishing now for the Kellogg Foundation, where we looked at the 3 largest economic development programs in 15 US states, 45 programs in all. We counted dollar after dollar where the money of these programs went to. And what we found was that in no more than 10% of the programs we studied was even a simple majority of the bucks going to local business. 90% of the programs are primarily about attraction or retention of non-local businesses. And frankly, most of them are spending well over 90% of their money doing this. I bet you if we did a serious analysis of economic development in Connecticut, you would find exactly the same pattern. It does suggest that maybe the most effective thing we can do for economic development is get rid of economic development. But I would like to suggest a kinder, gentler reinvention around trying to get more economic development focused on the entrepreneurship and the creation of local food businesses and a bunch of other local businesses. Where I'd like to leave you is with the words of someone who actually has addressed NOFA several times, Wendell Berry, who writes, "The real work of planet saving will be small, humble, and humbling, and insofar as it involves love, pleasing, and rewarding. Its jobs will be too many to count, too many to report, too many to be publicly noticed or rewarded, too small to make anyone rich or famous. Or as Gandhi says, everything you do is insignificant, and yet it is still very important that you do it." Thank you very much.